Today I will be sharing my process for recording songs and helping to demystify it for you if you are a beginner and want to learn how to do a recording in your own home and be able to share that with the rest of the world. If you are a more experienced singer-songwriter and person who has been recording some songs, I hope that you'll learn some of the pro tips and things that I've learned along the way here. If this sounds interesting to you, I hope you will stay tuned. I know you're ready to start recording right away, but there are a few things we need to do to prepare to record. So I'm going to walk through what some of those things are. So the first thing is you need to have a song prepared, you need to have practiced and be ready to record. And I can't emphasize this enough because the first thing that will happen is you'll sit down to record yourself and realize that your song isn't what you thought it was, or that you're really not as prepared as you thought you were. So just make sure you do that before you sit down and record, or just treat the recording session as another practice session if it turns out that way. So don't worry too much, but I like to tell people try to be as prepared as you can. The next thing is before you start recording, make sure that you do a last tune of your instrument. You want to tune your instrument and be set up for success. This is a common mistake that people make, is that they forget to tune their instrument and then they're singing and it doesn't sound right. And so just take that little extra minute or two to get your instrument tuned. The next thing that you need to do is think about what is the microphone you're going to use to record yourself. And I don't want to overcomplicate this, so let's start off with the simplest solution, which is this, which is your phone. This has the ability to record and it will come out just fine, so that's definitely a good option. You can use your laptop as another option. It has a built-in microphone, so use that. If you have access to some other sort of microphone, I would say keep it as simple as you can. So I'll just share what I have here. I have a nano blue microphone and it just sits on my desk, and I can use that for recording, whether I'm recording YouTube or recording music. It works well. One type of microphone that I would avoid is going to be the lapel microphone. So that's something that would clip onto your shirt. And there's a couple reasons why. First of all, some of them have a feature on them that filters out background noise like wind and other sounds and just picks up your voice, so it won't be optimal for recording music. The second thing is that when you clip it onto your clothes, it can often rub onto your shirt and you can get static. You can also get, as you're playing your guitar or playing your instrument, it moves around, so it really is not the best. I suggest a separate microphone that's either on a table or on a boom arm of some sort, so that you don't have it on your clothes. So now that I've covered all of the microphone recording options, I just want to say that you really don't need any fancy equipment here. I've just shared with you a variety of options that you can choose from, but there's no wrong answer. It's better to record something with one of these options than not record anything. So definitely don't let equipment hold you back. I will talk a little bit later about my setup. I have a short video I will share on my entire setup. Now that you've selected your equipment, let's move on to setup. So make sure before you start doing any long recording that you validate that your setup is correct. So connect everything up, make a short recording, listen back to it, and make sure it sounds like you want it to sound, and then make any adjustments before you actually try to record your song. It will save you a lot of time later if you do this. So that is one of my pro tips, is make sure that you get set up correctly from the beginning. So there's much debate about where you should actually record, and you need a quiet-ish place is what I call it. So you need a place that you won't have a lot of distractions and disruptions from a noise perspective. For me, I just record in this room. You can see I don't have any dampening on the walls. I do have carpet in this room that helps dampen any sounds, but really I'm just in an essentially empty room. So you don't need to have a fancy place. You just need a quiet place that you're able to record and not be interrupted and not have loud noises like sirens or people talking or car noises. Any of those you would want to try to avoid. So really just closing the windows, closing the door to the room, and sitting down and recording, and you should be good to go. So I thought I would share briefly what my setup looks like for my music recording. You'll see I have a stand over here on the left for music. I have my guitar, I have my ukulele, and then I have my blue microphone that I use for mainly music recording. Then you'll see I have headphones down here below, a couple different sets. But then as far as what I have plugged into my computer, you'll see that I have an extra microphone for desk recording that's separate from the mic for the music recording, but you could actually use either one. The blue one for me works a little bit better for the music recording. Then I have just one plug that adapts for different microphones that I want to add. Now keep in mind both microphones that I have are USB plugs. So in a lot of cases, if you want to plug right into your computer, you should be able to do that, or you just have to get a short adapter to adapt to your computer, so then you can plug in the USB. So that's what my setup looks like. Great. That wraps up all the preparation steps that you need to start recording. So let's move on to the actual recording process. I wanted to share this pro tip, which I have made this mistake myself many times. It's not something that you really ever get out of making this mistake. I don't know why, but the first thing that before you start recording is that you should always set up all your equipment, make sure that you're getting your inputs from your microphone into your device, and that when you go to record it, it is recording and it sounds like you expected. And I have done this many times where I start recording, I think everything is fine, I made some last minute adjustment, and then now it's not working like I expected. I have more than one microphone, so this also plays into the process. If I choose the wrong microphone, it can cause a problem that I'm not recording from the right place, and then it sounds like I'm 10 miles away instead of right on top of the microphone. So for me, the pro tip is always check and double check your recording setup, because it will save you a lot of time later when you get halfway through your recording, and it can be a 5-minute recording, it can be all day of your recording. So just be careful, check, double check, and make sure that all of your devices are recording as you expect. If you like sharing of this kind of content and you want to follow more of my other videos as they come out, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you like this particular video or something specific in it, I would love to see comments. You're ready to record. Almost. There is one thing I want you to think about as you move into actual recording phase, and that's the approach that you want to use on recording the song. And there's really two options that I'm going to discuss today, just for simplicity. And the first model is the easiest, and it is called the one take. And it's exactly what it says. You just record one time the whole song through with your vocals and your guitar or whatever other instrument. You record that once, and then that is your song. And you can do multiple takes of that entire song and then choose which one is best. But the main difference here from this type of approach is that whichever recording you choose is going to have all the pieces in it in one recording that sound good. And that can get tricky. You can get 3/4 through the song and then you mess up the last verse, or you're in the middle of a chorus and you have to cough. So all these things can, I guess, make it challenging to make that what I would call perfect recording in that one take process. So it can take quite a few times practicing through or recording yourself through to get a good take. I typically recommend 3 to 4 takes. And if you do the whole song 3 or 4 times, you're going to start to get tired. So at the end of that, just take a break and go do something else and then come back if you're not getting the results that you want. Because typically after 4 or 5 takes, you're starting to get fatigued and your voice will not be the same. You can also get tired from playing the guitar as well. So that's the one take process. The other process is what I call multi-take and multi-track. So you can have as many tracks as you want as you build the layers of the song. The layers of the song can include your vocals. It can include a drum track. It can include extra vocals that overlay your bass vocals. It can be other instruments that you want to infuse into this song. And so when you start adding all these tracks and different layers of the song, it makes it more complicated. Because as an example, to keep everything in time, you're going to have to use a drum beat or a metronome or some system to keep the whole song in time. If you're just playing your guitar without a metronome or anything, it may not be perfect, but you're singing along with it, so it should be fine from a timing perspective. But when you're having to line up all these other pieces of the song, it's really critical that you have everything in time. So I typically recommend, if you're going to go with this multi-take and multi-track system, that you start with a drum beat layer and use that, and you listen to that using your headphones, and then you record each layer on top of that. And you're always listening to the previous, either you can use the drum track for everything, or you can do the drum track and then also listen to your bass song and then add the guitar or other vocals into those. And then you're listening to one thing and then just recording another. It takes a little bit of practice in order to do that. And what I'm describing is a little bit more complicated than just the basic, but I wanted to share this with you because it isn't very long that you think, oh, I'm tired of doing this one take and just singing the song over and over and over till it sounds good, to, well, I want it to sound a little more polished, or I want to add, these other layers of vocals, especially on things like the chorus where you want it to sound maybe more volume or just a different sound. So I encourage people to start with a one take, get that process down, and then start simple with just adding a few layers or a few tracks into your song. And ultimately, when you go through this recording process, it's all going to end up being the same output, meaning no matter how many tracks you have in this file, it's going to create one file at the end. That's the song. And that's really your ultimate goal. So whether you use the one take or 100 takes, it really doesn't matter. It's all going to end up in one file at the end. I hope you're all ready for a quick GarageBand walkthrough. Let's start with, I've come into GarageBand and I am going to click on a new project, and then I'm going to choose my first track type, and it comes up as audio, but you can select what type of audio you want to have. I'm going to choose natural vocal, and then I can also name this as vocal, and then I can start recording. And if you see this green, this means it's getting the audio signal into it, and we should be able to start recording right away. So I can press record. And this is a recording of my voice. You can see it capturing as I'm talking. That's my voice. And if you're playing an instrument, this is what it would show up as. So if I pause that, the next thing I would want to do, and this, what I want to show here also is the range within this chart. So you want to have your loudest part of your recording between no more than 50 to 75 so that you have some headroom for additional adjustments. So you want to leave a little bit of space at the top. If you have a little bit high, that's okay. But primarily the recommendation is between 50 and 75. So just keep that in mind when you get your equipment set up. The next thing that I would do here is add, if you want to have a separate guitar listed separately, you can add that here. And then you can choose what type of guitar. You can just choose natural strum, and that's the type of effects it will have on that. And once you get more into being experienced with using GarageBand, you can try some of these other fun things out. But just the very basic, go with something really simple. The other thing you can do is add on a drum line here, so that way you can have drum beats, and then you can use that to help record your song and keep everything in time. So the next thing here is that if you wanted to add vocals, you could add another line of just chorus vocals. And you're just creating this in layers. And I would do the same thing that I did on the first line, which is adjust the voice. And maybe this time we do a dance vocal, and it'll sound a little bit different. And again, you can play around with these different settings to see what works for you. Then from here, once you have all your different vocal lines, you'll want to be able to export your song. And as I said at the beginning, if you want to keep it really simple, you can just go with one line, one track. You record both your instrument and your voice at the same time onto a single track, and then just do one take all the way through the song, and then do that 3 or 4 times, and then choose which one has what you think is the best result, and use that as your final song. So that way you don't have to worry about all these other tracks and layers into the song. And then you can just have that single and more raw form type of song. The next thing you would do, you want to be able to export the song as it's finished. So you're going to go to Share, Export Song to Disk. And if you want just an MP3 file that you can listen to, it'll just be in a file and you can click on it and listen to it without another application. You can do that with an MP3, and it's relatively small. If you want to release it to SoundCloud or DistroKid or some other place, you're going to have to use a WAV file, or it's recommended to use a WAV file, and those are going to be typically bigger files. So you'll export it like that. And then you just click on Export, and it will take all the files and compress it into a single file, and you will have a song. If you have any questions about the very basics of getting started, please add them in the comments. I hope this was helpful to get you started. If you are having a little bit of fear around recording, I hope this is helpful. Are you ready for editing? I hope so, because this is a big process. You would be surprised how much goes into editing. And for me, this was a big surprise. I had no idea that it takes so much effort to do that part of the job in finishing your song. Let's start with the easy editing. If you've done a one-take recording, then your amount of editing that you'll have to do is pretty minimal. You're just gonna trim the beginning, trim the end, make sure the whole recording doesn't have any major flaws in it, then essentially you're done. There are a couple of things that you can adjust in GarageBand, things like reverb, where you can make some minor tweaks to the way the song sounds. You could choose some of the other settings within GarageBand. I think I showed a few examples of dance vocals and other things. You could put some effects if you really wanted to on your song. But essentially, if you're doing the one take, just keep it in its raw form for the most part. And at the end, you just create the MP3 or the WAV file and you're finished. And that's it. If you decide to go with the more complicated multi-take and the multiple tracks, you're going to be in for a long night, week, or a month, depending on how much you can put into this editing. And that might sound crazy, what I just said, a day, a week, a month. It just depends. If you know exactly what you want out of that recording and what pieces you want to have, and you only have maybe a few layers or a few tracks that you're putting together, then it might only be a few hours. But if you're still learning how to use GarageBand and you're struggling with timings and getting everything lined up perfectly, it's going to take some time. And so this kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier in doing your recording. Try to keep it simple in the beginning, because otherwise you'll just get frustrated and say, this is just way too hard. It seems hard in the beginning, but if you just gradually learn a little bit at a time, it will be a lot easier and less painful for you. At least that's how I feel about it. When I started, I just did the one takes, and so most of my original songs are just the one take. I recorded it on this microphone that I have in front of me. I just pushed back a little bit, grabbed the guitar and sang, recorded that, and then that was it. So it can be very simplistic from an editing side, but also if you want to get that more complex approach to recording songs, just know that you will have to learn a lot more. It will be a bit of a challenge because you're going to be pushing yourself to learn new parts of how to use GarageBand. Don't get me started on things like EQ, so I'll let you go Google that yourself and you can learn on your own. So the takeaway here, or to summarize and close out editing, keep it simple if you can. Keep it as simple as you can, even if you're doing multiple takes and you're doing a more complicated production of your song. But just make sure you get to the end. Make sure that you finish and close out and create that last MP3 or WAV file and be done. And the main thing you want to do here is share it with other people. And so when you get to that MP3 is done, share it with your friends. If you decide you're going to release your song, get it uploaded to SoundCloud and start sharing it with your friends or other people. If you put it out there, you can actually, on SoundCloud, you can put your song there and then push it to other people to listen to. The world is your oyster, so to speak, that, once you get it recorded, you can do a lot of things with it. You can even put it on YouTube if you want. You can record yourself. You can take that same recording and create a video that goes with the recording. There's so many more things that you can do. So sure, it gave you a whole lot more to think about, I'm sure. But I want you to think about that going forward. I want to inspire you to keep going and think of all the other things that you'll be able to do with this recording. I thought I would do a quick wrap up here to summarize all of the steps that I went through earlier. First of all, the most important part of this process is to begin and to get started. And what you need to do is first be prepared. And the first step with that is to make sure that you have your song ready to go and that you're practiced up and ready to perform. You need to make sure that your equipment is set up so that you're able to do a recording and capture that recording when you're singing or playing your instrument. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you choose whether you're going to do a one-take model or a multi-take model, and then for each of those, make sure that you're recording 3 to 4 times each element of the song that you want to capture. And from there, we're going to move into editing. Editing is where you're trimming the beginning and the end, and then all the things that you don't want in your song. So perhaps you had mistakes in certain versions of the song, you cut those out, replace it with other versions that are good. And it seems obvious to do that, but as you're going through and listening to the pieces of the song, you're assembling like Legos what the outcome and final end product is going to look like. Now, if you do decide to go with the one-take song, I have some examples of that I will share in the comments of this video so you can hear what some of my one-take versions sounded like, and that will give you some idea of what you can expect or anticipate. I hope that you are able to record your first song, and I would be really thrilled to be able to hear some of those. So if in the comments you can share your first song that you've recorded or a recent song you've done that maybe was a one take, I would love to hear those and check them out. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video with me today, and I have many other videos on guitar and songwriting, so if those interest you, I hope you'll check those out, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video.